Hey guys, welcome back to the Writers Coffee Break session. I'm Bonnie Caton. I'm a staff writer here at AWAI, and I am so excited to be joined today by Sandy Franks. Hello, Sandy.
Hi.
So glad to have you. So Sandy, well, first of all, this is going to be a very special session with Sandy. She is our main copy chief here at AWAI. Sandy has been working in publishing and in direct sales since, well, for 30 years now, Sandy.
Yeah, I feel like I grew up in this business.
Yeah, I mean, you really did, in a way. Sandy started with Agora, like way back in the very early days when Agora was this tiny fledgling. I mean, Agora's huge now, but you were there at the very beginning, like working directly with people like Bill Bonner and Mark Ford. And I believe you were actually there before Mark Ford even got there, weren't you?
Yes, yeah.
So, I mean, you've seen all of this stuff as it happened, and you've seen, the explosion of the web in our space and everything that came with that. It's just so cool to be here with you and to be able to get your knowledge and wisdom in this space. So everybody who's watching, the reason this, not just because Sandy is here, but the reason that this session is so special is because we're going to have Sandy do a copy critique. So you can watch her critique 3 different pieces of copy and see kind of what that looks like when an editor looks at your piece. And, somebody with as much experience as Sandy will be able to tell you like what she looks for and what you should look for in your own copy, stuff like that. So I'm really excited to get to that. Before we do, Sandy, I'd love to ask you just a couple of quick questions. So since you were in the room with people like Bill Bonner and Mark Ford back in the day, like when they were first developing the concepts that we all teach here now in copywriting, like, what was that like? Like, what was it? I mean, now looking back, how does it feel to know that you were there at the beginning of that?
It was such an incredible learning experience. What the imagery that comes to mind as you say that is, remember that dance video from years ago, the evolution of dance?
Yes.
That's what it feels like. It's just to see how this industry has changed over the years and being at the very beginning of this metamorphosis of copywriting from strictly back then direct mail to now online, and all the tremendous amount of opportunities that exist for writers. It's just a crazy thing to see. But being in the room then was it was just, an incredible experience, because it was at the embassy of when all of this, copywriting really was being born. Like we were sitting literally in the room and going through all copy from all niches and trying to figure out why was it working? What was happening? Were people just writing randomly, or were they following some kind of structure or formula? And that's what we were determined to find out. And by doing that, we actually were able to develop, a structure of a sales letter. We figured out there was 4 U's. I literally was in the room with Mark Ford, Don Mahoney, and a publisher who's at Agora now named Addison Wigan. And he was training to be a copywriter. This is many years ago. And we were dissecting packages, especially from Boardroom. And we were trying to figure out, how are they writing these bullets? We were looking at every package they ever wrote. I think Gene Schwartz was one of their main copywriters. We were trying to figure out how are they writing these bullets? And that's how we were able to come up with the 4 U's, because we studied bullets. And then we found that pattern. And we're like, okay, now it's starting to make sense. And that was a huge moment. So then we could teach all the copywriters that were working at Agora, then this is how you write a bullet. And then, of course, we could apply the 4 U's in general. So it was just this, studying and then finding those secrets that were hidden in a letter, and then being able to share that knowledge. And that's what, helped grow the industry as far as copywriting. Now we had something to teach people, to show other people who wanted to be copywriters. Here's some strategies and techniques.
That's amazing. I mean, copywriting has become such a big thing now. Back then, to say I'm a copywriter, nobody would have known what the heck. And even it's still sometimes hard to explain, but now people are starting to understand what it is, and that there's such a huge, like, multi-trillion-dollar need for it.
Yes.
That I'm just
is just phenomenal.
Yeah. And I'm so thankful for you guys for coming up with a structure so we could actually have something to grasp onto and learn without having to do what you did, which was to go through everything that worked and analyze it like over and over and over. I mean, it's probably still useful to do that to a certain extent. But
absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So so glad you're here.
Thank
you. In just a few minutes, I'm going to have you go through, like I just told everybody, a few pieces of copy and tell us what you look for. But first of all, what do you look for? So you're an editor, you're a writer and an editor, and you're our copy chief here. So you look at copy a lot and you create copy a lot, and you have done this for years. So when you're looking at a promo, a sales letter, what do you look for specifically in like a headline to make it strong?
So what I'm looking for in a headline is something that I think that I have a terminology that I think that the prospect will latch onto. Mm-hmm. So basically it's the wording or like key phrases that are really conveying the idea. And so I'm trying to see if I can find that in the headline. I want something that I feel like is really going to grab the reader's attention. Mm-hmm. And that's through how the headline is structured with the words that are used. So I'm looking for some trigger words or like a keyword that I feel like the reader can go, oh, that's interesting. I want to know something a little bit more about that. Yeah. So that's sort of the first thing. I'm trying to see if I can find what's the sort of the messaging that's trying to be conveyed in the headline. Mm-hmm. And is the headline really conveying it accurately in a way that really gets attention? Mm-hmm. And wants the reader to continue to ask the question or to think to themselves, this is interesting. I should find out more about it.
Okay. So what about when you get past the headline and you're down in the body copy? Is it kind of the same thing that you're looking for? Or are you looking for other elements there?
I'm looking for the same thing, but in the lead, particularly what I'm trying to look for is what I'm trying to see if the writer is answering the question. The reader is always asking themselves, what's in it for me? And so that has to be addressed fairly quickly. And most of the time we address that in the lead. So I'm looking to see, is that being answered? Because if it's not, the odds are that that prospect isn't going to read even the body copy. That prospect won't even get to the offer or the call to action because they have no reason to continue to read it. So I'm trying to make sure that that is being addressed. The other thing that I'm always looking for is, I call it the payoff. So I want to make sure that the whatever messaging is conveyed in the headline is also addressed in the lead, because that's what hooked the reader. That's what brought them in. That's what got their attention. So as they're reading the lead, they're wondering, how is it connected back to that headline that got my attention? And so we have to have that payoff, and we have to connect back in some way, whether we use some of the verbiage from the headline or we just say it in a different way. The idea is expressed a little bit differently, but we want to connect back because now we're giving that reader a reason to read. And then we're also saying, okay, this is why this headline caught your attention. So now we've addressed that, and now we can go in and start to explain and slowly unveil the rest of the idea. And then we go into body copy where we can then start to dimensionalize the idea. We can add proof. We can show that, whatever we just said is true. And then we go to the other parts of the letter. So those are sort of the things that I'm looking for as I'm reading stuff. It's sort of like key things that are popping out, and I'm like checking off, is it there? Is it not there? And so if it's not, then I know what I can go in and what to improve.
Yeah. And that's such a valuable skill to start to be able to develop. I know just as a writer who is still developing my skill in this, it's hard to sometimes, you get stuck on what you're writing because you like it, or you write something, you're like, oh, that's pretty smart, I'm going to keep that, but sometimes to have that skill to be able to look at the whole and say, okay, this is actually what it's missing and what you need to do. And sometimes you need to kill your darlings, and get rid of those pieces you really liked.
And it's the same process, whether you're writing a sales letter or if you're writing content editorial. It's the same process, because good copy is good copy, whether it's in a sales letter or it's editorial. we're still
Yeah.
doing the same fundamental things. We want a good headline, and we want, to make sure the lead is compelling. So it's all the same thing, the same formulas, same, structure can apply to whatever writing project you might have.
Yeah, that's true. And I forgot to mention to everybody here, Sandy also writes the Golden Thread, which is our newsletter that goes out on Mondays to people, members of the copywriting, our main copywriting course. And I believe other higher level memberships too, if you're in that, you get the Golden Thread. And I gotta say, I love reading that newsletter, Sandy. You always have a really cool story to draw somebody in the beginning. Something that like you pulled out. I don't even know where you get this stuff, but it's great. It's so entertaining and fun to read. Would you say that that's a big part of, writing in sales letters as well?
Absolutely. And, as you said, that's published on Mondays. It's once a week. But, to get to that, it takes a little bit of time because it is a lot of what I'm mainly doing. The writing doesn't take that long, but it's finding that story, that idea. And so there's a lot of research. And I think this is a good habit for all writers to get into, is to be wide read. So I have a range of, tabs that I save for my internet of places that I go to, and it's everywhere and anywhere, because you never know where that little, as Don Mahoney used to call it, that little nugget, golden nugget of an idea is going to come from. So you have to be wide read, but because you're wide read, you can also right away, you can eliminate things that are ordinary, because you've seen it all over the place. When you're wide read, you've seen it before. So we as writers, when we're writing our content or sales letter, we're looking for the thing that is different. And you won't find that unless you see everything else that's out there. So that's part of why you have to be wide read and just do a lot of research. And when you find that thing that sounds different, then you can go and do more research in that specific direction to see, how can you make this idea, give it some depth, make it really engaging. So I think it starts there. It's like you have to just be like, it's almost like gold digging, there's a company, Barrick Gold, and they do like billions, 4 billion a year in sales, but they have to move something like 90 tons of dirt to find an ounce of gold. You know what I mean?
See, it's little things like this. You are so widely read that you could pull this stuff out and relate it back to whatever you're talking about. That's amazing.
But that's how it is. It's like you have to be wide read to find that speck of an idea that could give birth to your editorial piece or your sales letter.
Right. And you're not saying like you have to come at this as somebody who is literary and widely read, but like when you're ready to start writing your promotion, to be curious and to go out and look for ideas
and look for ideas. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I could ask you so many questions forever. I could just talk to you forever about all this stuff, but let's look at some copy and kind of start applying what you're telling us to real life a little bit.
Okay.
So the pieces that we're looking at, these came from a class that you did with us, right?
Yes, it came from one of our training programs, and the members that joined the program were going to write copy for one of our programs, which is Web Copywriting 2.0, and it teaches you how to write for the web, all kinds of projects online. And so we have a program. Nick Usborne is the expert. He's really well liked by all the AWAI members. Great guy, wonderful, has some great knowledge. Yeah. So he has a program that teaches people how to write for the web. And people who join this particular training program, that's what they were tasked to do, is to put together a sales letter that could ultimately be used to sell that program. And so we had 3 submissions for it.
Okay, so we're going to look at 3 of those submissions and we have permission from all these folks to use their submissions, so don't worry, guys. And Sandy has already gone through and previously edited these. So what we're looking at first is the before, their submission, and then we'll look at the edited version from Sandy and exactly kind of what you were thinking when you made those edits to make them stronger. Also, everyone who's watching, just know that this can feel really scary the first couple times, right? I mean, Sandy, I know you probably remember in the beginning getting edited by Bill Bonner. And People
Yeah.
like that. Like it's scary at first.
It is. And, but and people have different styles. I mean, when I was learning how to do it in Bill and Mark, they were kind of harsh a little bit.
Yeah.
So you had a reason to be afraid. I remember writing a sales letter and bringing it to them. They were reviewing it and saying, Sandy, and this is back then when it was before everything was through email or online. They're like, this paper that you printed out, you shouldn't really waste it like this.
Oh,
So that was
what?
their critique. So it's really hard to regroup and come back from that and submit copy again. But, you have to get through it to become good, because ultimately they always had some great information to share. So, that was their technique, but not everybody was like that. And it really isn't. When you do finally work with a client, it's very rare that you're going to have somebody say that to you, especially because I think what's happening in today's environment is that most clients you're going to be working for aren't going to have the knowledge that you are gaining working with AWI through all various programs. You actually are the expert. So you don't have to worry about a harsh review, because they aren't going to know it as well as you're going to know it. So you have that advantage already.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I also have to say to everybody, and we're going to get started here in just a sec, but this, getting edited by somebody when you submit writing is actually not only part of your learning process, but it also means that there's less pressure on you to be perfect from the get-go, because
exactly.
Everybody knows, we all know, no matter what we get from a copywriter or freelancer, it's never going to be perfect on the first run, even from like our top writers, even from Sandy or from Paul or, whoever it is who submits it. There's always something that's going to change no matter what. So
Absolutely.
Don't feel too intimidated, and just remember that takes a little pressure off of you too as a writer, because it's a collaborative thing every time.
Yes, and that's the key there. It's a collaboration, because we're all after the same goal. So whoever's editing your work it's trying to make it better so that it ultimately is the best, copy that can be submitted. So it's a back and forth. There's no expectation. Oh my God, it has to be perfect.
Yeah.
Because if it was, we wouldn't need copy chiefs. We'd all be out of job.
Yeah, and we need you, Sandy. So, okay, so really quickly, everyone who's watching, I'm going to have Sandy talk through kind of what she looks for here. But think in your mind while you're watching, when you look at this, read this headline complex up here, which is this whole first part up here at the top, and think to yourself like what maybe you would change about it or what you like about it, and then we'll have Sandy also chime in. So Sandy, what's your first reaction to this, and what would you do to it?
All right, so when I first see this, I feel like there is a germ of an idea in here. So this headline is earn a six-figure writing income without being salesy. And then there's the subhead, which is trying to support the idea that you can make six figures because you can make $7,000 to $15,000 a month writing short fun copy. So there is a germ of an idea here, but I think we need to add a little bit more, I'll say, drama to it to really pull it out and make it feel engaging. The other thing here is when I see the word salesy, it's the implication that if you're writing, what this means is if you're going to write long form sales copy, it's like hyperbolic. And that's not really true, because really good long form sales letters are not hyperbolic. They're just well constructed letters. So we don't want to imply, you have to be salesy to earn a six-figure income. We want to be able to say you can make money. In this case, we're trying to say you can make it without doing that because there's these other shorter projects. So the idea is a workable idea. So that's the first thing I check off. Okay, so we have a decent idea here, but now we just have to add more drama, really pull that idea out a little bit more, and start to add some details that make it really stand out to the reader. So we don't want a prospect going, well, what do you mean salesy? I don't understand. We want to get rid of all that kind of stuff. So we're going to make some edits that really take the idea and just notch it up a little bit, make it more clear, more specific, and more engaging to the prospect.
Okay.
So, and then if you want to scan down, we can look at the lead.
Yeah, let's take a look Oops, wrong screen. Okay. There we go.
So this lead here, it's really, it's not too bad because we're coming out of the gate talking about it's one of the biggest worries copywriters have. They come to me asking if there's another way. So we're starting to set the prospect up for something, and we're not giving it all away, which is great. We don't want to say in the first couple of paragraphs, this is what it's about, because there's no other reason they have to read the rest of your letter. So we want to just slowly unveil a little bit of what we're talking about. So this is fine. We're doing that. But then I'll see areas where I think we can add, again, some more drama to the lead. We want to make sure, again, we're connecting back to our headline, because that's the payoff. And then we also have to keep answering the question, well, what's in it for me as the reader to continue to read this? We have to have that moment in the lead where that question is addressed. And so in this lead, that's what I would do. I would work to construct it so that we're answering that question. So maybe if we go to the after version.
Yeah, quite a bit of the lead there. So here's the after.
Okay, so what I've done is I've gotten rid of that salesy. So now I'm going to say, basically, you can earn a six-figure income and you don't have to write a single piece of sales copy. So we're not putting sales copy in a negative light by saying salesy. We're just going to say you can still earn money and you don't even have to write sales letter copy. So now we've made it a little bit more interesting to the reader. And then in the subhead, I changed it up because I want to go ahead and address that thought if it feels like you have to master it and it makes you nervous. So I'm going to meet the writer where they are by putting that line in there. Then you'll love this short, fun type of copy that comes with, it should say, with built-in earning power. So now I'm trying to make it even more engaging. Well, what does it mean, built-in earning power? If I write this copy, there's an implication. It's automatic that you can earn this kind of money. And then clients are everywhere. So basically now I've really pulled that idea out of you don't have to write long form copy. You can make money writing this other stuff. But now I'm pulling it out a little bit more and adding a little more meat to it. There's built-in earning power. Clients are everywhere. So this is enough then to really get the reader that eyebrow of, what? So now we're speaking a little more directly to the reader with this kind of headline.
Would you say that instead of coming out and saying something, you're trying to use words that imply it rather? Like without writing a single piece of sales copy, that's a specific thing, but what you're getting at is that you don't have to do the salesy thing.
Exactly. Without saying the salesy thing. Exactly. Yeah. So we're being a little bit more direct here, by saying instead of salesy, we're saying you don't have to write a single piece of sales copy. And then we're adding the subhead to sort of strengthen the income potential that you can make.
Awesome. And then the payoff down here.
So in here, what I did is just, if I'm telling someone you can make money without writing a sales letter, now I want to sort of really pull the details out. So I'm adding a little detail so the reader can think in their mind, when we say sales letters, we know they're long, but what do we mean? So let's show them. Well, sales letters can be 16, 24, 32 pages long. It can be, my dog, sorry. They can, so now we're going to dramatize the fact that sales letters are long. They're pages long. So let's put that in the reader's mind. So now we can, when we transition to, hey, you can write shorter copy, now they can, I don't have to write 42 pages. I could still make a six-figure income writing shorter pages. So we're adding the details that bring it to life and make it more real and connect with the reader. And so then also I'm trying to make that pay off or connect back to the headline where I'm saying, and it doesn't involve writing a single piece of sales copy. So now I'm going back to my headline so the reader can be like, okay, that's what drew me in. You're connecting back. And now I'm going to talk about the money because that was in our subhead. So just how rewarding and high paying. Well, you can have a chance to earn $7,000 to $15K a month. So in that initial lead, what I'm trying to do are give the payoff, to the reader, connect back to the headline and answer the question, well, what's in it for me? Well, the what's in it is you're going to be able to make a lot of money. And now that I have done those, as I continue to write, now I can start to slowly unveil what it is I'm talking about a little bit at a time. So I don't know if I had any more edits here, but basically that's what we're trying to do here.
That's great. I mean, one thing I've had to relearn a lot over and over is to include more specific detail to get at what you're trying to say.
Yes.
Like, you know, that 7K to 15K a month, like those are pretty specific numbers that are giving you a payoff on the headline.
And that's a really good point, Bonnie, because that's what I find with a lot of newbie writers. And again, this applies to whether this is sales, copy, or editorial, is that what makes something feel flat is because the details are missing. And so the details are what bring it to life. That's what the reader then can paint a picture, because you're doing that for them, providing those details. So if ever you're writing copy and you feel like it's flat, it's probably because details are missing.
Okay. All right, let's scoot on down to the next one. I know there's more stuff up here, but let's look at this headline. So everybody take a sec to read this headline and go ahead and type in the comments if you'd like how you think it could be strengthened.
So in this one, again, to me, there is a little germ of an idea here, which is there's these major companies that are paying someone a huge amount of money to write for them and provide copywriting secrets. So to me, that's a workable idea. But when I look at the headline, one thing that strikes me, there's a lot of words here. There's a lot of names of companies, which we get it that we're trying to say these companies are paying this, but that's a lot for a reader to take in. There's so many companies named. I feel like mentioning those many companies then is a distraction or loses what we're really trying to say, is that major companies are paying a man a lot of money to unveil secrets. So for me, this is a matter of cutting back on some of this and then bringing out what is the thing that all of these companies have what common is they're major corporations. Major companies are paying someone a lot of money to tell them some secrets. So I want to say that in a little bit more compelling way and pull that idea again, make that idea really pop off the page.
Let's go ahead and look at the edits to the headline that you made really quick, and then we'll go back up to the lead.
Okay.
That's fresh.
So basically what I did is just cut back on some of the name of the companies and just talked about that these are the world's corporate elite companies. And just named a few to give an example of what I'm talking about. And they paid this man $15,000 a day. And then I just added the verbiage about being hush hush, because if he's been paid, these major companies are paying him for their secrets. Until now, really, they haven't been known to the world. So I'm trying to, again, add that drama and make it engaging by it's been kept hush hush for years, but now you are going to learn those same secrets. He's going to share it with you. So it's really just the same idea, but now we've just added some more dimension to it and beefed it up. So now hopefully we're engaging a reader's curiosity. Well, what are those hush hush secrets? And I'm going to get them now.
Yeah, I want to know. I don't know what this is about. Another thing I noticed too is that you broke it up into smaller pieces. So there's like an idea per piece rather than trying to piece out.
Get it all in there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so let's go back up to the lead. And we'll just look at the top of the lead here.
So here, this lead is actually, it's not too bad. So probably the edits that I would make are not going to be major, but the one thing I'd want to do is initially the first thing I'm seeing is that this is a lot about Rebecca. Each and every day I'm seeking new opportunities. It's my mission. I need to ensure, I had to, so I want to tone that down because our prospect isn't really interested in Rebecca and all her concerns. Really, at this point, they want to know who is that man that got paid money and what are these hush hush secrets. So I want to get to that part because that's what the reader wants to know. And so I want to cut some of this down and I want to get to that a little quicker. And then I want to elaborate on that idea because that's really what they want to know at this point in time. So the lead here, that's what I would do. Let's cut it and let's get to that. Let's bring up that hush hush part in this area as well.
So let's take a look at that and what you did down here. Yeah, you didn't change a whole lot up top, just like kind of took a sentence out right there.
And then I think if we go down a little further, keep going, then you'll see bringing in this whole idea of, what did he have? Why am I telling you this? Because it's going to alter your copywriting career. That's what's in it for the reader. And so, now I'm reinforcing the point. It's not often that you get, this access to learn this information. So the lead wasn't too bad. I just cut a few things, but then I added this section to tie back to the whole concept of what we were talking about, this man and it's all hush hush. And now you get to know his secrets.
Awesome. Okay, let's look at one more. And then we have a couple questions that came in.
So again, this one, first thing I noticed is that we have a germ of an idea to work with. There's kind of this neat story happening about this writer who somehow magically is making 15,000 in 6 weeks. That's, what I mean? That's a good story. You'd want to know more. And now this person is the company's hero. And then in the subhead, there's all these companies we can choose from. And then there's at the bottom and 15,000 richer. So again, all of these are demonstrating there is a germ of an idea. And the other thing I'll say, and generally with all of these, is that the writing is solid. It's solid. These are good writers, and it's really just a matter of pulling the idea out a little bit more, and adding some drama and some details, and as you said, the specifics. So in here, I like this idea of this story. I want to really focus on that. And I feel like in this case, what I'd want to do is get rid of the 1.5 billion companies and all of that, because it's sort of taking away from the focus of how did this person make this kind of money? And we don't need to repeat in parentheses and 15,000 richer. We just told them in the headline. So now we've sort of, now we're kind of duplicating and we want to be careful. You don't want to say the exact same thing in the next sentence or the next paragraph. You can express the idea differently using different words, but you don't want to be repetitive like this, because a reader can be, believe it or not, they'll pick up on these little things. When you repeat the exact same wording too often, what happens is the reader tunes out because it becomes boring. Right. So I would play with this. I would keep the idea, the story going, and I would just pull out some things I think that would make it even more attention grabbing.
Okay, so let's look at what you did to the headline down here.
So here, I wanted to make it a little more dramatic. So now we're going to talk about this newbie copywriter makes a stunning breakthrough, because initially, remember, that's the story. How did she make this money? Something had to occur, some breakthrough, something had to occur where she could do this. So let's say it, let's make it feel like, oh my gosh, there's a stunning breakthrough happened. What did she do? She's earning 15,000 in 6 weeks and becomes a company's rating here. And for the reader, here's how you can do the exact same thing, because that's what they want to know. Since we introduced this idea that this person is making this money so quickly, naturally, the prospect wants to know, well, how can I do it? So that's basically what I'm trying to do here, is plant this idea. She did something to make this amount of money so quickly, and I'm going to show you how you can do the same.
Yeah, you really, brought out the power in this by simplifying it and just bringing it into like the power of one, right? So you pick that one thing that's the most intriguing about it and just made it about that.
And just focus on that. So we eliminated that there were 1.5 billion companies, all that kind of stuff. It wasn't necessary, because the idea here is strong enough. The story is strong enough. We just want to focus on that.
Yeah. And with your headline, you're just trying to draw somebody in to the copy at that point. So you don't need to start offering too much proof and all this other stuff. You just need them to read on.
Yes, that's all we want the headline to do, is to capture someone's attention. That's the only job a headline has to do, is to get the reader's attention. And if we do that, then they're going to want to know more, and we can keep them engaged when we write a really strong lead. So that's all we need to do in the headline, is just get their attention.
Yeah, that's great. We'll quickly look at the lead here, or just the top of it.
So here, you know, we're starting to tell the story of the person. And so all I want to do is really kind of bring that out, but also I need to make that transition where I can make it about the payoff for the reader. Well, what's in it for them to talk about her story? So I need to bring that into the lead some way, because they told him she has this breakthrough and, you know, here's how you can do it. So I have to address that somewhere in the lead. So I don't want to tell too much and make the story too much about her, because then it's not about the reader. Right. So I'm just going to make some edits that sort of bring it back to the reader and can make that connection to this breakthrough.
Mm-hmm. And so far, that's been a common theme among all three of these. You know, you guys, this is something that happens a lot. You know, you get into the story and the story is so intriguing. You want to tell this person's story, but you always have to bring it back to what's in it for the reader. So here we go.
And so here again, so you can see some of the stuff is there, but now, you know, I'm telling them she's making this money, but I really want to address how is she doing this? Mm-hmm. Because that was the thing that captured their attention. How did this newbie writer make this kind of money? You know, we talk about a stunning breakthrough. So now that's really want to focus on. We gave him enough about Leslie. And we're going to tell later on in the body copy, and a little later, we'll go back and tell more of her story. But here, we just want to talk about it. But then this is about the reader. So we want to say to them, how can you do it? And what does this mean to you? And so that's what we're really trying to plant in the lead, is to make the story more about them, get them wondering how they can replicate Leslie's success. And so really that's what all these edits are doing.
Yeah, when you put in like, how is it possible for a newbie writer like Leslie, the reader is going to say, oh, well, I'm a newbie writer like Leslie, you know, how can I do that? Or turning hordes of ordinary people into an army of sought after six-figure writers. Like, how can I become one of them? You know,
exactly.
Kind of putting that idea in people's heads. It's great. So awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I can find where my mouse is. There it is. And then we have a couple questions that came in. So this is a question about Agora stuff. Somebody said some of the sales pieces from Agora contained more ellipses than others. Would you use these to change the tone or rhythm, or why are people using ellipses so much?
You know, I think it's just a style, a particular writing style that some copywriters, because you'll see there's, you know, Agora has so many divisions that not every division does that. So one division prefers that, or one copywriter prefers doing that. And that's really just a preference thing. I would just say, just don't overdo it, because again, just like when we use the exact same word over and over, the same, you know, so closely together, that becomes boring to the reader. So if you have too many of those, the same thing can happen. So you just have, if you want to use them, fine, but just don't go crazy with it. And that's just a style. I remember working with Lee Trexler, who was a copywriter many years ago for Agora, and he loved writing those. He loved doing that. That was his style of writing, and it worked for him. But it's not every copywriter's style. Mm-hmm.
I have a hard time not using them personally, because it's so conversational. You know, it makes you flow down to the next line, and the next line, and the next line. So I'm actually trying to take them out of my writing a little bit. It's tough to make something come. You know, when you have something you lean on a lot.
Yeah,
find another way to do it. Yeah. So somebody says, Christy asks, if I'm telling a story where I ask myself questions in the piece, do I write them out using I or you? So the reader is saying them to themselves, I or to you. Does that make sense?
I think, yeah. And I would say, if you're going to ask the questions, do it like some of the examples we just showed, where think about the reader. So we want to use the word you more than we want to use the word I, basically, because that automatically gets your reader engaged in your copy. If you're writing I, they tune out because it's not about them. So I think it's perfectly fine to transition. You could write them as I, but then in your actual copy, transition them around to you so that it feels like you're pulling the reader in the copy. And that's what they're thinking. I think something to think about doing as any kind of copy you write is to, put yourself in the reader's head. Where are they as you're reading? What are they thinking? And so I think that helps you figure out, should I say I or should I say you? And more than times than not, you really want to be you, because that's, you're speaking to the reader, and then they're thinking of themselves, oh, you really are talking to me.
And Jesus asked, what are the main building blocks that need to be included in sales letters? So this is a big one. We actually have a lot of free information on our website that goes over a number of the building blocks. Like if you go onto our website and type in inside AWAI, you'll find a whole bunch of like hour-long classes about things that you can find for free. Some of the building blocks that Sandy, you mentioned earlier, there's stuff like the 4 U's, which, what are those?
So it's useful, urgent, unique, and ultra specific. So that's a good way to help judge whether you've written a headline. If you can get a headline that addresses all 4 of those U's, it's probably a decent headline. So sometimes you can't get all 4 in there, but if you can get 3 out of 4, that's a good ratio. Another thing is we call the 4 P's, which is picture, promise, proof, and push. So that's another way you can, as you're constructing a letter, are you painting a picture for the reader? Are you making a promise to the reader? And, do you have proof in your body copy that what you promised is actually deliverable? And the push is, are you pushing the prospect to take action? So there's all kinds of stuff like that. Basically a sales letter follows a formula where you have a headline, you have a lead, you have body copy, you have a call to action, you have irresistible offer, and then a call to action. So those are the different, was that 5 or 6 elements? And you want to just make sure that as you're writing your letter, you've done it in that particular way. So, but as you said, we have so many resources on this. Just explore our website and you'll see that there's just so many different, things we have to help figure out what are the elements that need to go in there.
Yeah, the stuff that you guys were developing back in the day in Agora, like in the very beginning. And so Christy also said, Christy Lenabaugh, I think, the 6-figure copywriting course is great for building blocks, and that's true. And we're working on a very special thing involving our copywriting course right now. So I think everybody's going to be really happy to hear about that in the coming weeks. So hang in there for a little something coming your way, everybody. So we have gone longer than we usually go in these because I can't stop myself. I want to ask you so much, Sandy. Sandy is so awesome to learn from. You actually have a program you're doing with us right now. Starts tomorrow for today.
Tomorrow.
Starting.
It's a sales letter writing mastery and certification program. And basically, I'm going to teach people how to write a sales letter from scratch, whether you've done one before or not. And so a lot of the stuff we just talked about, I'm going through and really deep dive into it so that by the end of the training, you actually have written a sales letter and you have a chance to become AWAI verified as well. So that's look for this today or tomorrow.
Yeah, I think the enrollment's closed on that one, but just so you guys know that that's out there and that's a program you can get into. And a lot of the stuff that Sandy teaches is kind of the next step. So after you've got those building blocks, you get in with Sandy and she really helps you get down to the nitty-gritty of how to do this. And it's amazing. So Sandy, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us and being here with us.
Oh, I loved it. It's great. And I hope that everybody had a good takeaway from the session. And as you said, there's so many resources available through AWAI. You can't help but be successful if you just, follow what we say and put in the work.
Yeah, just go digging and you'll find it.
Yep.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, thanks. And thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you again very soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.